A surprise returner from the transfer portal is back at Texas A&M.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. I'm your host, Matt Galatzan of Texas A&M Aggies on SI. Welcome to Locked On Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. I am joined by Zach Dimmitt today. And Zach, a major development for Texas A&M, particularly in the secondary, with a former starter and big-time player returning from the transfer portal after being in it for the first few days of the window. Bryce Anderson is back in Aggie land after a brief flirtation with the portal. He comes back as maybe not a starter, but definitely a key rotational piece in that secondary, definitely a key leadership figure in the locker room. Very well-liked player, very hard-working player. He's got all the right things going on upstairs. He's got all the right things going on in the field. Missed basically this entire last season with an injury, so he gets a new year of eligibility thanks to an injury red shirt or just a regular red shirt, whichever he decides to use. And there's no doubt about it, having him back really solves a big depth problem you may have had on the back end.
Yeah, pretty surprising news. I was kind of wondering there for a while, where would Bryce Anderson go? There wasn't really any noise on that end when it came to, any interest from other teams. And I'm sure he had interest from tons of teams in the portal, but it was just about what's the right opportunity, for him. And he probably, obviously, now that he's back, probably thought that coming back to A&M was the best thing for him. When A&M got Tafwiq Byard from Colorado, safety there out of the portal, kind of felt like, okay, that they're good there. But now you add Bryce Anderson to the mix there. Dalton Brooks, Marcus Ratcliffe's coming back as well. That's a pretty good secondary for next season. I know you're losing some talent at corner. You still have Des Ricks at corner, of course, but Willie III heading to the NFL. I think this is a big deal for A&M's defense. I don't think talent in the secondary was an issue this past season, necessarily, but the fact that you're not going to have any drop off, you have some major returners there. You're adding talent as well. Big deal there for A&M, especially because with Bryce Anderson just being, a guy that's, I've mentioned it before. He stuck around. He was a part of that 2022 class. He's one of the very few guys left in that class, and he stayed committed to A&M. Yes, I know he entered the portal, but you got to do what's best for you. You got to see what options are out there. You never know. Maybe he entered the portal to try to, get a little bit of a raise from A&M. Who knows what the numbers look like on that end? So it's going to be interesting to see what he has to say about all this in the months to come. But yeah, big news, a little bit of surprising news, and happy he's back.
Yeah, absolutely. That gives you a really dynamic, rotation back there on the back end with the four of those guys. There's going to be more help on the way too, in the vein of some freshmen coming in. They may not even be done back there in terms of the portal, but now you get a real sense of what this defense is going to start to look like in 2026. 3 defensive linemen have come in, couple edge rushers, couple linebackers, and one which we'll talk about here in a minute. Now you've got a safety in there. You've also got Bryce Anderson returning. Maybe there's another player here or there that could trickle in on the defensive side of the ball, but it seems like this Texas A&M rebuild is going very smoothly after quite a big exodus in terms of players going to the transfer portal and heading off to the NFL. A lot of talent going to the NFL for Texas A&M. I mean, I'm sitting here going through the list right now, and we're talking about, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 players possibly getting drafted for Texas A&M this next year. to go along with, the transfer exits that we'll talk about in the last segment. But, anytime you can get a major depth piece back, it's a big deal, especially one with the skill set like Bryce Anderson, guy that doesn't mind getting into the box and getting his hat dirty, also holds up pretty well in pass coverage. I know that his production dropped from his sophomore to his junior campaign and all of that. I think that with the new blood that they have calling, in the defensive room, with Lyle Hemphill taking over as defensive coordinator, with Mike Elko calling the plays, I think you're going to see Bryce Anderson play a very big part in what they're going to do next season. And he's capable of playing multiple positions as well. You're losing Tyreek Chappelle, who's your nickel guy. So there's a distinct possibility that Bryce Anderson could play in the nickel spot. He could be back there at free safety. He could play strong safety. He's a very versatile player and one that Texas A&M is very, very glad that they're holding on to.
Yeah, I mean, whenever I saw the news that originally that he'd be entering the portal, it was a little bit disappointing, just because he has been with the program so long, and it's like, oh, now he's gonna be leaving. Who knows if he goes to a program as talented as A&M, but now he has a chance to get this team back to the championship level expectations that they're aiming for. A&M made the playoff this season, and that was a great step in the right direction. It's unlikely that the first time you make the playoff, you're just going to immediately go on a run and win the national title. Not everyone's Indiana. I know Indiana made it to the CFP last year, but you got to take baby steps. And so I think A&M has a great chance next year. And what a great story that would be if Bryce Anderson's able to help this secondary and help this defense get to the the goals and things like that they want to be reaching. So yeah, like I said, going to be interesting to see what he has to say about how all this went down. I don't think he's going to maybe reveal too many details, but were there interest from other teams? What were the conversations like with A&M? That's all going to be something to watch in the months to come. So we'll just see what happens. We'll just see what happens there.
Yeah, and he's not the only good news that Texas A&M got today. A new commit as well. It seems like every single day Texas A&M is getting a new piece added to this roster. So we are going to reveal who that is and what he can do for this defense next season. Coming up next here on Locked On Aggies. The new year is here, and it's the perfect time to set your routine and refresh your space. If you've been spending more time at home, you might as well love how it looks and feels. That's why you should turn to Wayfair. It's a one-stop shop for getting your homework back on track. From bedding and mattresses to storage solutions for every room, Wayfair makes it easy from start to finish. Wayfair has everything you need for full home refresh, all in one place, whether you're updating your living room, organizing your space, or upgrading your work from home setup. Wayfair's huge selection makes it easy to find exactly what works for you and your style and budget. I love that I can find pieces that match my style without spending a fortune, and shopping is easy. Delivery is smooth, and everything arrives exactly as expected. So get organized, get refreshed, and get back on track this new year for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair. Every style, every home. Before we continue, I just want to give a quick shout out to our Locked On Aggies listeners. Thank you for making Locked On Aggies your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. If you haven't already, go check out the new Everydayer Club. You get access to an ad-free audio feed for Locked On Aggies, compatible with Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and every other major podcast app. You also get an invite to a members-only Discord for Locked On, you get an invite to a members-only Locked On Everydayer Club Discord server, which includes a group chat just for listeners of this show. I'll be hanging out in there as well if you want to come yell at me about my takes or my ad reads. Or we can just chat and about the latest Texas A&M news. So you can go to lockedonaggies.supercast.com or tap the link in the show notes to learn more. Zach, Aggies have done a really, really good job so far of rebuilding this defense. We're going to talk about all of the moves that they have made thus far in the third segment, but suffice it to say, they've taken care of the front seven very, very well. They've also added a couple pieces on the back end, and it seems like this defense is going to be really poised to make a push next year is one of the best in the SEC. Yesterday on our show with Harrison, we talked about what are the remaining needs for this football team. There was only one on the defensive side of the ball. It was linebacker. We thought, you know what? They're losing Scooby Williams and Torian York and Tristan Jernigan. They probably need to add another body there. And guess what? That is exactly what they did. They added another big piece to this defense. Maybe not the most well-known name in the entire world, but he is going to be a factor in this defense. TJ Smith out of Houston Christian announced on X that he would be committing to Texas A&M. This brings Texas A&M's class up to the number 2 ranked class in the On3 transfer portal team rankings. In 3 seasons with Houston Christian, he finished with 211 tackles, 15 tackles for loss, and 8 sacks. This past season as a senior, 65 tackles, 9 tackles for loss, and 2 sacks in just 6 games. He was a 3-star recruit out of high school. In 2 seasons, that's a pretty hefty amount of production. And I know it's on a lower level, but, I mean, if you're talking about depth and adding a depth to a key position, TJ Smith is it.
Yeah, and I listen. I know Houston Christian is not this powerhouse of a program. I understand all that. If you're an A&M fan, it's like there's some question marks there. Will he be able to produce at the SEC level? Because it's not like he was a Group of 5. Houston Christian is a lower level FBS team. So there's going to be some question marks there about production. But take this for what it is. Jalix Hunt, Philadelphia Eagles linebacker, was a 3rd-round pick out of Houston Christian in 2024. I know he's an absolute physical freak. He's a specimen. He had an incredible year this year for Philly. Not everyone that's coming out of Houston Christian is going to be Jalix Hunt. I understand all that. But this program can produce talent. So I know it's just one example. There's going to be some exceptions to the rule. But you got to give TJ Smith the benefit of the doubt until we see him on the field. It's not A&M's got a ton of SEC transfers coming in, especially on the offensive line this offseason. At wide receiver as well. You're not going to get every single portal guy coming in is going to be an SEC transfer. That's just not the reality. You're going to find some diamonds in the rough, and I think TJ Smith, could definitely be that. And he's probably going to be here, you would hope, for the long haul. Well, actually, I mean, it kind of depends because I don't know about his eligibility. We'll see about that. But, he's the older brother of 2027 A&M commit Miles Smith on the defensive line. So Miles Smith isn't even going to be here. I guess if he were to reclassify, well, we'll have to wait and see. But he's not even going to be here for another 2 seasons. So is TJ Smith going to be able to find a way to get another year of eligibility, play with his brother in 2027? We just got to wait and see. I mean, it depends. So interesting there. Interesting little connection there. Miles Smith committed to A&M right before Christmas. So, nice little connection there. We'll see if they are able to, even take the field together. But that definitely could be a motivating factor for TJ Smith. So, that's a long way down the line. The next season's a long way down the line as well. But I think that TJ Smith is going to be, a nice addition to this defense. He has a lot of football under his belt. So, I like it.
Well, here's the thing, Locked On Aggies fans. Sometimes your host makes a mistake. And instead of reading you his college stats, he reads you his high school stats on accident. Those are the stats that I read you earlier. The 211 tackles, 15 tackles for loss, 8 sacks, and 65 tackles, 9 tackles for loss, and 2 sacks in 6 games. Those were his high school stats at Cathedral High School in Los Angeles. So apologies there. I'm not going to do an edit because I don't feel like it, but here are his college stats. Last season with Houston Christian, 39 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and a pass deflection in 12 games. He finished the year with 2 games of 7 tackles, both career highs during his time with the Huskies. Zach already, said all the stuff about Miles Smith so far. Perhaps that was a way to make sure that the Aggies land Miles Smith, is bringing in his brother, who's also a productive player at a lower level, obviously. But, TJ's just a sophomore. He should have 2 years of eligibility remaining, at least, maybe 3. I'll have to dig into that a little bit more. But 6'1", 235 pounds. He's a good size for it. He's productive, and this now gives the Aggies 2 linebackers in the transfer portal after the losses of Torian York and Scooby Williams, plus Tristan Jernigan taken off. You needed to find a couple of bodies to put in there. You did that. Now, obviously, there could be a little bit of a drop-off from Torian York and Scooby Williams to TJ Smith and Ray Coney, but that is okay because Texas A&M also has some other talent on the roster at the position, and some talent that has already been productive, I should say. You talked about the way that Damian Sanford came on last year after the injury to Scooby Williams. He was fantastic. He is a surefire starter next year. You also have Jordan Lockhart returning. You have true freshman from last season, Noah McHale, coming in. That probably to get some significant playing time. So you've got some talent, you got some depth, and you've also got some production at the position. You feel much, much better about it. This has all been very confusing to keep up with, Zach, because I believe the last figure I saw was that there were over 3,700 players that have entered the transfer portal.
Yeah. Yep.
Texas A&M has brought in double digits have left. And it seems like every time we look down at our phones, there is a new piece of transfer portal news from Matt Zenitz or Chris Hummer or Pete Nakos or name it. I mean, it's everywhere. So what we thought we would do here on a Tuesday is just give you guys kind of a reset of what has happened so far in the transfer portal for Texas A&M, who is gone so far, who is coming in so far, and maybe who is committed elsewhere. In the process as well. Some Aggies have found some new homes. We will get into all of that here next on Locked On Aggies. There's nothing like college football season. Tailgates, packed stadiums, and being right in the middle of it all. The energy, the bands, the moments you remember forever. But actually getting tickets, that part used to be frustrating with long queues, logins, and prices jumping at checkout. That's why Game Time gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to unlock amazing college football tickets and experiences in just a few taps. I opened the Game Time app and to look at upcoming college football games. I was hoping to go to the national championship game this year, and I was surprised by how fast it was to find great seats. The app is incredibly easy to use. I went from browsing to buying tickets in just minutes. I love being able to see the view from my seat before buying, so I know exactly what I was getting. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that is LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. A lot has happened thus far, Zach. A ton has happened, as a matter of fact. There has been a ton of news that has gone on in this transfer portal. Hell, just last night, Jordan Seaton, the number 1 player now in the transfer portal out of Colorado, just popped into the transfer portal out of nowhere. There is going to be a long line of suitors for that guy to choose from wherever he ends up going. There have been some surprises to enter the portal for Texas A&M. Not a ton of surprises, though. I don't think they haven't had any stars that have left via the transfer portal, to my recollection. You kind of looked through the list, and Probably the one that sticks out the most is Theo Melanostrum, but again, he wasn't a massive part of what they were doing offensively. He was one of 3 tight ends that they used pretty regularly. But in total, Texas A&M has now lost is that 12 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 players with Bryce Anderson returning. And we will go through the list now. Tristan Jernigan, linebacker. I don't believe he has found a new spot yet, to my knowledge. Jordan Pride is also in the portal. Javon Thomas. He was a player that I was a little bit disappointed to see leave as well. I think he's really talented, and he's going to end up being a very good player at the next level. Rylan Kennedy, the edge rusher, has now landed at Florida State. Solomon Williams has landed at Cal. Theo Melanostrum, that we just mentioned, is now at SMU. Isaiah Williams has landed at Kansas State. Kobe Sellers has landed at Vanderbilt. Miles O'Neill, the backup quarterback, is now at North Carolina. Jonte Newman is also in the portal, and Dalen Evans, the defensive tackle, another young, talented player that I was kind of disappointed to see go, committed to Mississippi State as of today. So he has a new home, and it is in the SEC. 11 players in today's college football, transfer portal climate is not that bad, guys. I mean, Texas has lost 25 players now, something like that. A lot of these other schools, Ohio State is somewhere up there in those numbers. There is just a ton of players from everywhere that has entered the portal. And it seems like Texas A&M has largely kept their roster together, especially when it comes to players who contribute at a high level. Obviously, there's the NFL losses, which I'll go through real quick. Will Lee III, Casey Concepcion, Amari Nyblack, E.J. Smith, Scooby Williams, Albert Regis, Le'Veon Moss, Armaj Reed Adams, Tyreek Chappelle, Chase Bizantis, Torian York, Amari Daniels, and Demetrius Crownover. That's a lot of dudes and a lot of big-time players. But for the most part, in terms of losses, Texas A&M has minimized a lot in comparison to a lot of other programs.
Yeah, especially with some of these programs that have the coaching changes going on. It's pretty incredible just how many players are leaving. A&M's not in that position. Guys want to come to A&M. Guys want to stay A&M, if at all possible. Sometimes when these guys leave, you can't blame them because they committed here. They want to stay here under Mike Elko, but money is a major part of this, obviously, and so if they can find a better opportunity for more playing time, more money, it's hard to pass that up. That's why you really credit the guys that stick around. And A&M, you're going to lose guys to the draft. That's going to happen, and that's a good thing. It shows that your program's headed in the right direction. But I agree. I don't think the losses have been too bad. Yeah, Dalen Evans committed right before we hopped on. He committed to Mississippi State right before we hopped on here to record the show. It seems like every time we record the show, something happens with A&M right afterwards, right after you post it. So if we want any good news to happen with A&M or any news at all, we might as well just record the show, and something will probably happen right after that. So that seems to be what's happened the past week or so. But yeah, I agree with you. Losses haven't been too bad. You're going to lose some depth, but I think the additions in the portal have been very, very, very good for A&M. Some of them even elite. And yeah, I think things are headed in the right direction for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And now we're going to go through all the players that Texas A&M has added. Like we said, they've lost 11 players. Now that Bryce Anderson has returned, that number is back at 11 from 12. And they're one of the few programs, especially top-of-the-line power conference programs, that actually has more additions than losses thus far. I mean, you go through the list. It is kind of shocking, the position that we're in right now with, the amount of turnover we've had on a lot of these rosters without them filling those needs. But Texas A&M has added 17 players thus far. Tight end Houston Thomas, linebacker Ray Coney. Both of those guys have 1 year of eligibility remaining. Safety Tafwiq Byard out of Colorado has 2 years of eligibility. Cohen Eccles from LSU, the offensive guard, has 3 years. Richie Anderson, another tight end out of Fresno State, has 2 years of eligibility. David Alano, the kicker out of Illinois, has 1 year of eligibility. Trevon Baugh, the offensive lineman out of South Carolina, has 1 year. Brandon Davis Swain out of Colorado, 3 years of eligibility, the defensive tackle. Ryan Henderson, an edge rusher out of San Diego State, will have 1 year remaining. Tyree Smith, offensive tackle, LSU, has 2 years remaining. Anto Saka, the edge from Northwestern, has 1 year left. Wilcom Formby, the big-time offensive tackle that Texas A&M got out of Alabama, will have 3 years of eligibility remaining. And then you have Ricky Gibson, the defensive back out of Tennessee, with 1 year of eligibility. Angelo McCollum, the defensive lineman out of Illinois, will have 2 years of eligibility. Isaiah Horton, the wide receiver out of Alabama, the Cam Coleman replacement, as it were. He will have 1 year of eligibility remaining. CJ Mims, the North Carolina defensive tackle, will have 1 season of eligibility remaining. And then we talked about TJ Smith today. He should have at least 2 years of eligibility remaining as well. That is a very, very big haul. And as a result, Texas A&M is near the top of the rankings for On3 and the 24/7 Sports rankings. Both of them have the Aggies very, very high at the top, and for good reason.
Yeah, and I understand the frustration that A&M wasn't able to land Cam Coleman. I totally get it, but I think it actually could be a good thing when it comes to adding more talent from the portal, spreading your wealth, quite literally spreading the money around the roster. Because Texas is going to be paying Cam Coleman quite a bit. Who knows what that number is? Is it $3 million, $3.5 million? I mean, my goodness. A&M is not going to be paying Isaiah Horton that kind of money, and he's a terrific player. He's deserving of quite a big contract. But I think because you're able to land Isaiah Horton, he's not Cam Coleman, but you never know. We could look up at the end of the year and he's either matching or has better statistics than Cam Coleman by next season. You never know. This guy is experienced. He's elite. So A&M was going to win no matter what, in my opinion. You win by adding a guy like Cam Coleman, but if you don't get him, you're able to spread that money around the rest of the roster, and you're still able to get a good receiver, able to add him to an already talented receiving core. So I really like what A&M's done with this class. You're not, pigeonholing yourself with tons of money towards one guy. And I think it's going to turn out to be a good thing for the Aggies next season.
Yeah, and actually, I was a little bit inaccurate as well. Again, I'm sorry, guys. We forgot there is an 18th commit. Shea Frybaum, the long snapper. Let's not forget about the long snapper. That's a big deal. Okay, we got it. We got to give the long snapper his respect. But overall, like we said, big haul thus far for Texas A&M. It's just going to continue as well. We're going to have plenty more news coming up in terms of the transfer portal. Basketball season is now in the SEC, so we'll start getting into that a lot more. And you know what? Baseball is just a month away, so that will also end up being a big part of what we discuss going forward. We are very heavy transfer portal right now, obviously, because that is what's going on the most. But tune in tomorrow. We will have more portal news. We will have some basketball news and everything in between. Make sure to follow and subscribe Locked On Aggies so you get all of the latest episodes. You can find us on X and TikTok at Locked On Aggies. You can find me on X at Matt Galatzan. You can find Zach on X at Zach Dimmitt 7 with 2 M's and 2 T's. And if you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On Aggies ad-free, plus members-only Discord access and more. Head to lockedonaggies.supercast.com to join the club. For those of you on video, we send you to the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, make sure your second listen is Locked On College Football, and we will see you next time.